Hello. Right, I'm just doing a little bit of work on this work in progress. Um, with quite a bit of people interested in the drafting film, which is what this is on at the moment. So let me just move these out of the way. So as you can see, this is it's transparent, but it's quite well. This one is quite thick. This is 0.05. This is classed as double matte. So in other words, I can work on both sides of the film. At the moment, I've got a black background underneath, but you can see that's with a white background underneath. So you can change the total look of your picture just by changing. So if I take that out and then just put the black underneath, you can see it totally changes the look of your piece. Okay. Get this camera focused in a little bit more. All right. Okay. Okay, so I've just put the cream piece back underneath for now. I'll try and get this camera in focus. Okay. Well, that's best I can do for now. I'll have to check this camera out a little bit more. So, right, the beauty with drafting film is, as I say, we can go onto both sides if we need to. So if you need to sort of say this black pupil, if you need it looking a bit more saturated, and you filled up all your layers on the front, you can turn it round onto the back, just put some black where you require it, and it will intensify the colour on the right side as well. Another advantage to this is if you're drawing your image out, once you've got your sketch done, if you print it out but in reverse on a piece of paper, and do it on one side of the mat, you can turn the mat over so that it's then on the right side, but your drawing is on the reverse side. So you then not get any graphic marks or anything on the right side, and you can use them as your guidelines and just erase them afterwards or as you're going along, whichever you feel is right. You can also, as I say, you can also put your reference photo underneath like that. You can actually see it, so you can actually see some of the colours or whatever. If you want to, you can actually trace it through that if you wanted. I don't recommend it, but again, that's up to each individual. Now, the one thing that people will find is that it doesn't take as many layers as an ordinary paper would, because it really is very, 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 very smooth. But it's a matte look. But there are advantages to it as well. You don't need to be as, I mean, this one I'm doing is a little bit more precise, but you can block your colours a lot more, and then it's great for when you're doing animal fur, because you can use a tool like this, which is a ceramic slice, they're called, or pen or knife, whatever you want to call it. This one's a retractable one. Okay, the blades are you can replace the blade, sorry. And this one has got like a double side of the other blades in there, so you can turn it round. They do last a lot longer than a craft knife, and also they're safer. I mean, I wouldn't recommend you do this, but you know, it's not cutting my finger. But if I really press down, it would. But it does cut paper very easily, very, very sharp. And what you use this for is you can actually, if you want to, remove pigment very carefully and actually create some fur lines. And then all you have to do is go back over if you wish to, and you can actually deepen your colour. It just take more colour then. Okay, and enrich your colour, and create the fur of the animal. This is just a quick guide to show you. I will be doing some tutorials with this surface with coloured pencil. Some small samples of like animals' eyes, how to do them, and also all different types of fur I'll be doing, and what you can actually achieve with the drafting film colour pencils and something. If you haven't got a ceramic slice, it doesn't matter. You can use a craft knife, but you just get a better result with the ceramic one. And then the only other thing that I use on here is I use a putty rubber, but I also use the Tombow Mono Zero eraser, which is a very tiny one, and you can actually use this to actually create highlights in your work. So if you've gone over something and you want to lighten it up a little bit, if you just gently use it, you can use it as a highlight to create your highlights. Okay. So this really is just a rough idea of the drafting film. And as I say, I will be going into it in greater detail with some short videos that I'm going to be uploading onto the website. So, you know, you can always have a look at those. They'll be a bit more detailed and how to use the film. But this is just a quick explanation to show you really some of the effects that you can get with using the drafting film. There's a couple of pieces here that I've done. This is one that I completed last week. This is a hare. So as you can see, when I hold it up to the light, it does look quite glossy. And it is, when you're working on it, it does give you a glossy finish. However, when you put it down, I mean, when you come to mount it, you have got to mount it on something. So I usually recommend mount board, but you can, like I say, you've got then a choice. You can change the colours behind, and changing the colours changes the picture or the piece that you've done completely. So that's it with the cream, as I say, and that's it with a black background. So you can see how it actually changes that piece dramatically. Another piece that I've done is put that to one side. This was the first sample piece that I ever did. So it's just an eye, a cat's eye. Again, that's on cream. If you put it back under black, let it focus in a minute. And it will. And you can see all the tiny, and this decides to focus in. Come on, focus. I don't know what's up with it today. This camera is not focusing very well. So yeah, that's the cat's eye. Another thing with this surface is you can't tear it. You know, no matter how hard you try with your fingers, you can't tear it. But the one thing you do have to bear in mind is don't get it creased. If you get a crease in it, it's ruined. You can't get the crease out. But the other thing is this one, I mean, you can buy it in pads. You can get Polydraw, which is another form, or there's another brand out there, Duralay, I think. This one I particularly use. This one is a Graphics, and it's a 0.05. 0.005. It's double matte, so I can actually use the colour on both sides. If you don't get the double matte, you'll get one side that's matte like this and the other side is quite glossy, so you can only work on one side with the pencil. That's the disadvantage with that one, so I always get the double matte. Also, if you get a thinner one, so like a 0.003, you'll be able to see through it a little bit more. But this one is quite thin, that one. This one is a nice one to work on. Background wise, if you want to do a background to your piece, you've got several options as well. You can either do it on a totally separate piece of graphics and put it lay it behind this one to get an effect. You can turn this one over and you can do your backgrounds on the back, or you can use a completely different medium if you like, because this works well with other mediums as well. You can use things such as oil pastels. Watercolor markers are quite good. You can use watercolor paint as well, but you've got to wait for it to completely dry. So you could do your backgrounds with that. So that's giving you several different options. Now what I'm just going to show you here, now we've got this in focus a little bit, you can see how this ceramic tool works. So in other words, you're just lifting it out So you lift your, so what you're doing is removing pigment essentially. Push that out of the way, and then what you do is you can actually go back in and actually go over with the pencil. Now if you use a sharp pencil, you can fill up the lines that you've done, or you can just darken it up, touch it in there and just add some more lines. And then what you can do as well, like I say, you can work on the reverse side. So if we look at the reverse side, that is where we want it to be really, really black. So if I just go over that quite with black, that will intensify the pigment on the right side. The other thing though you do have to take into account when you're doing this is, you can see this is where I've sliced some of the hairs out. So if I go back over here with the black now and really sort of solidify saturate that pigment there with the black, then when you turn it over that and you do the slicing, you're not really going to see the fur lines now so much, because what's going to happen is, yes, you're removing the saturation there, the colour, but because you put black on the back side, that is what's showing through, so you will not see. So if you've made a mistake there with that, you can actually cover that up. But if you want the hairlines to show, you do have to take that into account when you reverse it over and put some colour in there. But yes, it's good for taking out different. So if you like, I'm just going to take some of the fur lines out of here, and then I can go back in and I can work on different colours with the brush. So if I want, I can build up some colour here. So when you essentially go over where you've done the fur lines, it doesn't actually go in unless you really press it in. And then you can intensify the black here by putting in some fur, by doing it in the fur line of the fur and doing it as fur lines. So if you wanted to put a bit more differential colour in there, you can do that. And then get your knife again. And you can reintroduce some more texture. And then build up some more colour. I mean, that's had quite a few layers of colour, but it is still accepting colour if you're careful with it. I mean, it does reduce the amount of layers that you can put on a piece, but that really doesn't matter. You just have to be a bit more careful. I mean, you don't have to be as careful putting the colour down. You'll see once you see the videos of me actually doing a piece where you can just block the colours in and then work from there and build the texture up and the colours up as you're going along and get the right definitions in there. That's the way it works, and that's the bit that you've got to work at. But you know, as you can see here, so if I wanted to pull out a little bit more, I can pull out a little bit. I can make that a bit, so that could be like a, that was coming from like that. You can actually make it a little bit more substantial there, and then I wanted to put colour over that there so you can see it a bit more. So when you start adding the colours to the different layers, you will start to see the fur lines a bit more. And then, like I say, if you wanted to on the back, you could, if I turn that over, I can see where I've just put my fur line. A bit of white in there, quite. Okay. You can see that they will stand out a little bit more then. And then obviously just put your colour back on there. Okay, right, you can just scratch out a bit more there. Right. So you can see it's making a few more marks there. Okay. So as I say, this is just a piece that I was practicing on when I initially started, but I will be doing some videos going into better detail and technique as to how to use it. This was just a mess about initially, but you can see you can get some really nice effects there. And that's that one on the coloured paper, so you can see the lines stick out on the white. They stick out even more there. So it is quite an interesting medium to work with colour pencil, and it does lend itself very well to colour pencil work. And it just takes some time getting used to it and keeping it clean. You must keep your underneath clean as well, so keep it dusted down. Make sure there's nothing on there, because this is such a thin medium, that whatever's on there will impress onto here as well. So that is another thing that you have got to be careful of. And when you're working, I always recommend that you do have another. I have a piece of film. I work with this over the top, so that when I'm resting, I've got my hand on here, so that none of my oils or anything go into there. And also because it can smudge a little bit, because it is a very, very smooth surface. Use light layers, build them up. As I say, if you want to add saturation to your colour, you can reverse it and put that on the back. I would say it takes about 4 or 5 layers, maybe a few more, depending on how light you add your layers. Again, that's down to personal use and how much you use it, how much pressure you put on when you actually put in layers on. I mean, I put quite light layers on, so I think this is about the 5th layer now on here, so I could build that up a little bit more. It's still taking the colour, so that's fine. And then you can add other colours in there. So it's once you get going with it, then if you need to, you can add more, more slices to it, depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve. But you can see by adding this darker colour now, you can see where the original or where the previous layered slices were. You can see them a little bit better. So you can actually change the whole image of the cat there. Okay, and you just build it up and build it up. So it's just a quick insight into the medium. I hope some people are brave enough to have a go with it. It is a very unusual medium. It's something that you will probably, if you've just used paper before, it's going to be completely alien to you. But all I can say is have a go. Just dive in there and play with it and have a go. You can buy it in individual sheets. I get the big individual sheets. It comes in a roll, but as soon as I lay it down, it does lay completely flat. It doesn't curl up or anything like that. Now, when I'm working, I hold mine down with magnets onto a magnetic board, because it's easier if I'm changing this paper underneath. So I just pull the paper out and put another colour underneath. So, play with it and just have some fun. And as I say, you'll be quite amazed at some of the results you can get from it. This has been me messing about with other colours, but I will be doing some follow-up videos with projects, starting with things like something like this, and I probably not on as big a scale as this. Also some fur techniques, other parts of the animal face. And also I should be doing some bits from human portraits as well. So it gives you a good start to practice the techniques on each part of the facial features, and then build up from there. Okay, good luck, have a go, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, bye.